I'm about to go to a lawyer to see what my separation options are from my husband. Am I in the right? My 33-year-old female, husband, 35-year-old male, and I have been together for 11 years, married for 5. No children yet, but we're going to start planning to start trying in September or October of this year. I suffer from depression and anxiety and have weaned off most of my medications with the help of my doctors, as well as stopped taking birth control in preparation to start trying to get pregnant soon. My husband said he would start cutting down on his marijuana use when he saw me taking the steps of getting off my medications to get pregnant seriously. And I did in April. I went from taking 7 pills a day, including birth control, to taking only 2 now. And next month I'll be almost done and only taking 1 pill. He's seen me struggle with some side effects of weaning off the medications. However, he hasn't done anything to slow down his Zaza habit. I don't have a problem with marijuana, but I'd like him to stop doing it regularly when we have kids. He hasn't shown any signs of stopping, and I've even mentioned it, and he says he will, but nothing. About 3 years ago, and this is why this post is from an anonymous account, we decided to spice up our intimacy life and do something we'd both always wanted to do and been curious about. We had a threesome. We found a woman on a threesome app, and we actually ended up having somewhat of a relationship with her for a short time. She had epilepsy and a really traumatic, hard life, so we also supported her through a lot. From taking care of her when she was having seizures, to feeding her, to providing a place to stay when she had nowhere else to go. Basically, sometimes living with us for weeks at a time. Rent-free, etc., etc. The point being, we have done a lot for her, and most of the time, willingly, as we always have cared about her and wanted to help a friend out who was in what was sometimes dire need. We stopped being intimacy about a year or so ago, but have remained good friends with her and still help her out however we can. To say the friendship has always been smooth sailing would be a lie. It's actually been quite turbulent at times. Although she's had a significantly challenging life, due to her epilepsy, she's also gotten used to the idea of a lot of things being done for her or done to accommodate her. And she can get a little entitled and act spoiled when things don't go her way. Over the last 3 years, we've had some blowout arguments over things. A couple of examples. She had to get head surgery to replace the battery in the device in her brain that slows her seizures. She asked if she could recover at my house, and we said no, because I was honestly not comfortable having someone heal from a major surgery like that in my home when my husband and I would be at work, leaving her alone. If something were to happen while we weren't there, and we wouldn't have been able to help her, I would have felt terrible. Also, I'm not great in medical situations as it is due to my anxiety. I just didn't feel right about it and didn't feel we were the qualified caregivers to her during this. She flipped out on us, telling us that the only thing we'd ever done for her is help her with her resume for a job, and that we were terrible friends. She has the code to our door because she will sometimes come and help us, watch our cats and dog while we're away or busy. One night at 11:30 p.m., without any warning on Monday night, she just let herself into our house. We woke up at 3 in the morning to a video of her on our Ring camera coming in. She fell asleep on our couch in the basement because apparently she had nowhere to go. I was furious. We have guns in our house. We could have thought she was an intruder and things could have gone terribly. She tried to write it off as not a big deal, and then when we got even madder, she turned it on us saying we weren't good friends and she didn't feel welcome in our house anymore, and we didn't care about the fact that she had nowhere to go. These are just 2 of our more recent fights. There used to be a lot more when we were still having intimacy. She used to get mad and jealous about some of the rules I would put down, about sex, the relationship, which had been in place since the start of things, but she just randomly wanted to start not caring about it. For instance, I wanted all communication between us to be in the group chat only, yet she would call and text him separately, and I had problems with that. I believe it's still going on, and my husband knows I don't like it, but obviously doesn't care. This is where the biggest problem lies. My husband is always doing one of 2 things. He's either making excuses for her bad behavior constantly, or taking her side over mine. It's every single time there is even a slight disagreement between all of us. She leaves dirty dishes in the sink or on the stove for us to clean up. Well, she didn't feel good, so we should give her a break. or I get mad and he just offers to do it himself. So it'll be taken care of and I won't be mad anymore. She behaves like an utter jerk who is 34 going on 5. I should check my attitude and stop being so angry all the time. There have been several issues this year where I have specifically told my husband that if he continues to take her side on arguments, and worst of all, sometimes he does this in front of her, which just completely undermines me, I would really have to think about the effects that this friendship is having on our marriage. I also feel like he tells her lies behind my back. For example, we were going to pay her to watch our pets while we were on vacation, and all of a sudden she knows the figure we're paying her without even a discussion between my husband and me, because he texted with her about it without consulting me. He also tells her she can stay longer sometimes when she's here, when he specifically knows I need a break, or I have told him I want her out. Then when I ask him, he acts like he doesn't know or never said anything. I know when he is lying. We had a wedding to attend out of state this past weekend, and she was kind enough to stay with our animals for the time we were away. We pay her very well and give her groceries and let her stay at our house the whole time, which is a luxury to her as it's a big house, she's alone, but can have friends over if she wants. Has all the access to our streaming apps, to basically whatever she wants in our house, within reason. We've had quite a busy summer of events, so this is probably the 3rd time she's helped us like this in 2 months. But she's always wanted to, because she likes to have time away from her roommate with severe attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and gets to have her time and space at our house with minimal responsibilities. She currently doesn't have a job due to her condition, so we pay her well to help her stay afloat in general. Between our families, my husband and I have both a beach house and a lake house. In return for helping us out so much this summer, and due to the fact that she doesn't have a lot and doesn't get to go on many vacations, we offered to take her on some weekend trips to our vacation homes. Initially, she gave us some dates she was free to go, but she had to get her head surgery, and the dates were then uncertain because she didn't know when she would be scheduled or how long she'd have to be in recovery. She ended up having her surgery sooner than planned due to some cancellations, and by that time, some of the dates she had initially chosen were no longer available at the vacation houses, as they are both shared with our various family members who also have shared rights to the vacation houses. When we told her the first date of her choice wasn't available, she flipped out, started screaming at us over the phone that we didn't take her seriously, and she was done with us. That we only use her when we need our pets taken care of. She threatened to block us and not talk to us anymore. My husband's parents are graciously taking us on a cruise to the Caribbean in August, in preparation for us having kids, kind of our last free vacation without kids, for what we imagine will be a long time. She again agreed to watch the pets again while we're gone, and we agreed to pay her over $1,000 plus groceries, etc., for about 10 days. This morning, we told her we had found a free date in the calendar for the beach, and even offered to miss my father-in-law's 65th birthday to go this particular weekend because a lot of the other dates have been taken up in the calendar for the remainder of the summer. I literally got in fights with my sister and my mom trying to get the date she wanted to go to work out, but it just couldn't. So we agreed to go on the date of my father-in-law's 65th. Since we'd be spending the 2 weeks on the cruise with him shortly after, she settled on it, and I thought things were fine. Until this morning, it came in conversation, and she starts getting mad, because apparently she says my husband told her separately on the phone that since we didn't get the initial date, she wanted that we take her 2 weekends in a row to make up for it. I actually believe her because of my husband's other false promises to her over the years behind my back. But the beach house isn't even available 2 weekends in a row. And I don't really want to go 2 weekends back to back and have to find pet care as my animals aren't allowed at the beach house. They are, however, allowed at the lake house. So we invited her to go there with us on the second weekend instead. But that wasn't good enough for her. She started to scream at us yet again that we didn't take her seriously and were using her. She wouldn't even listen with us, trying to reason with her because she was so enraged. Then she says she's not going to watch our pets for us anymore during our cruise, and good luck finding someone else. I've had enough at this point and asked her to please stop yelling in my house. It's a townhouse, and I don't want our neighbors to hear and be alarmed. I told her I don't even want to bring someone to our family vacation houses who treats us this way. She is a master manipulator. At first, my husband is very angry with her and is on my side. telling her she can't treat us like this after all we do and have done for her, and she needs to leave. She starts blaming it all on me, saying that I threatened to cancel the weekend at the beach and it's my fault, etc., etc., which I did after. She started screaming at me in my own house and disrespecting my husband and me because she decided to have a temper tantrum about it. My husband ends up following her upstairs while she stormed off and started to pack up to leave. After 15 minutes of them fighting with each other and me repeatedly having to tell them to shut up and stop yelling in my house, he comes down and again starts saying things, notioning that he has again been manipulated by her and is taking her side. He said I needed to stop being so angry all the time and get over it. Then said that he lives this situation with me every day because I'm always angry. He knows it is a major pet peeve of mine and trigger when he starts bringing our personal issues up in regards to other disagreements, especially involving her. So I lose it. Tell him again he is taking her side over mine and not taking any of my feelings into account. Not all the times this has happened with her again and again, and nothing ever changes with her. Nothing. She just says sorry and does it all over again the next time she gets mad about something or drinks too much. I really have had a hard time understanding why my husband takes this mental abuse from her time and time again, but I've finally had enough of it all. I have let myself feel bad for this woman enough times. I have given her passes on her shitty, entitled behavior long enough. I have let my friendship morals and standards completely go out the window more times than I care to count. My husband and I rarely fight, except when it has to do with her nowadays. It's ruining our relationship because I am disgusted with the way he treats her, as if she can do no wrong. I am more disgusted with how he puts her feelings before mine. This is after I have explicitly told him multiple times not to do it because I am his wife, but yet he continues to. I've really had enough at this point and hit my limit today with his comments to me after the argument. I don't want to talk to him, see him, and if I had somewhere else to go, I'd prefer to not even share the same air with him. He is sabotaging our marriage and doesn't seem to even care. I want to punish him selfishly. I want him to know the seriousness of the consequences of his actions. So I'm thinking about going to a lawyer and talking about my options. I've tried to mention couples counseling to him, but just like with everything else in this post, he doesn't take it seriously. So this feels like it's unfortunately my only option left. Not to mention our intimacy life hasn't been great. Is this someone that I really want to spend the rest of my life and have kids with? Am I overreacting? I love him very much, but I just feel like he won't take me seriously anymore, and our marriage is doomed. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Please, for the love of God, do not bring a child into this toxic mess. Your husband and pot, you and your meds, etc. There are plenty of psychiatric medications that are known to be pregnancy safe, and even those that are not proven safe bear a long discussion with your OB and or midwife to balance the risk and benefit of stopping the medication versus affecting your mental health. I myself stayed on my meds through my 3rd pregnancy, and the benefit to my family's well-being was remarkable. That is totally setting aside the fact that you two had an agreement he failed to keep. If he is self-medicating with Zaza, I guess whatever, but the point is you made an agreement and he blew it. That alone would prevent me from having kids with this man. 2. I got about 2 paragraphs into your story about your unicorn and literally couldn't finish because what are you still doing being wrapped up in this mess? They are both showing you who they are. It is up to you to believe them and act in your best interest. Why would you want to drag a child into a marriage where the husband is weirdly obsessed with someone to whom the title friend applies only in the most generous sense and has shown you time and again he has no plans to change? Comment 2. I'm shocked. The first time this woman threw a fit, I would have told her to go and let her know that she's not welcome anymore. Pet sitters are easy to find. Unless you're looking for a pet sitter that offers intimacy favors. Do you know for certain that your husband isn't having intimacy with her? Sounds like she's trying to tear you apart, and it's working. Are you really ready for a divorce? I'd sit down with my hubby, let him know that this threesome isn't working anymore. Change the code on the house. If he argues that he wants her to stay, tell him you won't stay in the threesome. Please do not bring kids into this mess. Now, for the update. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. So, here's what's been happening this past week. And after the blowout with our friend, things have been tense at home. My husband and I barely spoke for the first couple of days. I was still fuming over how he took her side again, and he seemed to be avoiding me, probably because he knew I was still angry. I spent a lot of time thinking about our relationship and what I wanted to do next. I even started looking up lawyers online to see what my options were for separation. I felt like I was at a breaking point and needed to take some kind of action. Midweek, I decided to confront my husband. I couldn't stand the silence anymore, and I needed to know where he stood. We sat down in the living room, and I laid it all out for him. I told him how hurt I was that he always seemed to take her side and how it felt like he was putting her needs above mine. I also brought up the fact that he hadn't made any effort to cut down on his marijuana use, even though I had been working so hard to get off my medications in preparation for starting a family. He listened, but I could tell he was getting defensive. He said he felt like he was stuck in the middle and that he didn't know how to make both of us happy. He also admitted that he had been lying to me about some of the things he promised her because he didn't want to deal with the fallout. That admission hurt, but at least he was being honest for once. We argued for a while, but eventually we both calmed down. I told him that I couldn't keep living like this and that something needed to change. I suggested couples counseling again, and this time, he seemed more open to the idea. He agreed to look into it and see if we could find a therapist that we both felt comfortable with. In the meantime, I decided to reach out to our friend and try to set some boundaries. I told her that while we appreciated everything she had done for us, we needed some space to work on our marriage. She didn't take it well, of course. She accused me of trying to cut her out of our lives and said that she didn't know what she would do without our support. It was hard to hear, but I stood my ground. I told her that we needed to focus on our relationship and that we couldn't keep putting her needs above our own. The fallout from that conversation was immediate. She blocked me on social media and stopped responding to my texts. My husband was upset, but he didn't try to change my mind. I think he realized that we needed to make some changes if we were going to save our marriage. As the week went on, things started to improve slightly. My husband and I had a few more honest conversations, and we both agreed to make an effort to communicate better. He even started cutting back on his marijuana use, which was a huge step in the right direction. We also found a couples therapist and scheduled our first session for next week. In the midst of all this, I started thinking about our history and how we got to this point. When we first met, my husband was my rock. He was always there for me, supporting me through my struggles with depression and anxiety. I think that's part of why it hurts so much to see him put someone else's needs above mine now. I know he cares about our friend, but I need to feel like I'm his priority. I also thought a lot about our friend and why she behaves the way she does. She's had a tough life, and I think she's used to relying on others for support. But that doesn't excuse her behavior, and it doesn't mean we have to keep putting up with it. I realize that part of the reason I've let things go on for so long is because I feel guilty. I feel guilty for not being able to help her more, for not being able to fix her problems. But I can't keep sacrificing my own happiness and my marriage for her. One thing that really stood out to me this week was how much my husband and I still care about each other, despite everything that's happened. We both want to make things work, and we're both willing to put in the effort. It's not going to be easy, and there are still a lot of issues we need to work through, but I feel more hopeful than I have in a long time. So that's where things stand right now. We're taking things one day at a time and trying to rebuild our relationship. It's going to be a long road, but I think we're both committed to making it work. Thanks for reading. Aita for snapping at my mill after she trashed my cooking. At my promotion dinner. So my 35-year-old sister-in-law and mother-in-law in their 60s keep calling my food bland just because I don't cook like they do. My husband, who is 36, and I have been married for almost 4 years now, dated for 3 beforehand, and this has always been an issue. My dad taught me to cook using fresh ingredients, and I prefer to buy fresh herbs rather than using things like powdered seasoning and garlic onion powder, which are much more common in America. If I bring any food to an event in one of their homes, neither of them will touch it. Even if my husband's dad, brothers, and his brothers' spouses say they love it. They will make snarky comments about my food having no color or texture to it, And when they do taste it, they'll have maybe a bite and make a face like a toddler saying it's missing something. They have invaded my pantry before and complain loudly, asking where the seasoning bottles are. No matter how many times I show them the onions, scallions, chives, ginger, bell peppers, dill, cinnamon sticks, lemon, and garlic, among many other things, they keep insisting those are not real seasoning and that I need the powdered ones. My mother-in-law in particular often laments how her poor son must really miss real food and her authentic, homemade American seasoning. Today we hosted a dinner for both families to celebrate a promotion I got at work. As usual, my mother-in-law wouldn't stop talking about the lack of taste in the food, even though I had thoroughly seasoned and marinated the chicken. She kept saying it was good enough, but there is something missing, or how it needed more flavor. She kept grabbing my husband by the chin and asking him if he missed Mom's homemade seasoning. I finally snapped and told her that what she probably misses is the taste of $2 Walmart powdered fake onion. She got really mad at me, and my sister-in-law started calling me a disrespectful brat, while my mother-in-law called me a bad wife. My husband refused to say he liked my food in front of his mom when I asked, but as soon as they left, he told me he loves my cooking and how I shouldn't pay attention to them and just wanted to hold me and cuddle me. I was too upset, though, and told him to just leave me alone if he wasn't going to share that with everyone. He's now locked himself up in his office saying he needs to think about my desperate need for approval. How do I make him understand that it's not about that? It's about him not having my back. My brother thinks he's a coward, and my sister thinks I should stop cooking for them, but those are not very mature solutions. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Regards. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. My brother thinks he's a coward, and my sister thinks I should stop cooking for them. But those are not very mature solutions. Why? If your employer decides to stop paying you, would you continue working for them? Why would you continue to give someone your time and labor when it's clearly not wanted or valued? Why is it considered mature to be a doormat? I'm with sister. Stop cooking for these people. Your husband can handle it, since he was raised on mommy's exquisite shake and bake. He should have no problem taking over. You can sit back and be served. Comment 2. Tell your husband you can make your own food from now on. You won't admit you like my food in front of your mother, which tells me either you don't like it or you don't care enough to defend me. So I'm done. I'm not cooking for you or them again. Make food for yourself and you can have a sandwich. They come over, order crappy pizza. Don't acknowledge their nonsense. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post. So after that disastrous dinner, things have been pretty tense around here. My husband and I barely spoke the next day. He stayed in his office most of the time, and I tried to keep myself busy with work and other chores. I was still fuming about how he didn't stand up for me, and it felt like a huge betrayal. I mean, if he loves my cooking, why can't he just say it in front of his mom? The day after, my mother-in-law called. She wanted to clear the air and invited us over for dinner. I didn't want to go, but my husband insisted. He said it would be a good opportunity to smooth things over. Reluctantly, I agreed. When we got there, it was awkward. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were overly nice, which was weird. They kept offering me drinks and asking about my job. It felt like they were trying too hard to make up for the previous night. During dinner, my mother-in-law brought up the food again. She said she wanted to understand my cooking style better and asked if I could show her how I make my dishes. I was skeptical but agreed. Maybe this was her way of trying to bridge the gap. We planned to have a cooking session at our place the next day. When she came over, I showed her my pantry and explained how I use fresh ingredients. She seemed genuinely interested, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was just pretending. We cooked together, and she even complimented the dish we made. It was a small victory, but I still felt uneasy. Later that evening, my husband and I had a long talk. He apologized for not defending me and said he didn't want to upset his mom. I told him how much it hurt me and that I needed him to have my back. He promised to do better, but I could see he was struggling with the idea of standing up to his mom. It was clear he was torn between us. The next day, my sister-in-law called. She wanted to apologize for calling me a disrespectful brat and invited me out for coffee. I agreed, hoping we could finally put this behind us. During our coffee date, she admitted that she and her mom had been unfair to me. She said they were just used to their way of cooking and didn't mean to hurt my feelings. I appreciated her honesty, but I still felt like there was more to it. As we were talking, she mentioned something that caught my attention. She said my mother-in-law had always been very protective of her sons and had a hard time letting go. It made me realize that this wasn't just about the food. It was about control and her fear of losing her son to another woman. This revelation hit me hard. I started to see the bigger picture and understood why my mother-in-law was acting the way she was. That evening, I talked to my husband about what his sister had said. He admitted that his mom had always been overbearing and that he struggled to stand up to her. He said he was afraid of causing a rift in the family. I told him that while I understood his feelings, he needed to prioritize our relationship. We agreed to work on setting boundaries with his mom and being more supportive of each other. The next day, my mother-in-law called again. She wanted to invite us over for another family dinner. This time, I decided to take a different approach. I suggested that we have a potluck-style dinner where everyone brings a dish. That way, we could all share our cooking styles and appreciate each other's efforts. Surprisingly, she agreed. At the potluck, everyone brought their favorite dishes. My mother-in-law made her famous meatloaf. My sister-in-law brought a casserole, and I made a fresh herb-roasted chicken. As we sat down to eat, I could see the tension easing. People were complimenting each other's dishes, and there was a sense of camaraderie that hadn't been there before. During the meal, my husband finally spoke up. He told his mom how much he loved my cooking and how he appreciated the effort I put into using fresh ingredients. It was a small victory, but it meant the world to me. My mother-in-law seemed taken aback, but didn't say anything negative. It felt like a turning point. After dinner, my mother-in-law pulled me aside. She admitted that she had been too harsh and that she was trying to be more open-minded. She said she realized that her way wasn't the only way and that she wanted to learn from me. It was a huge step forward, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. In the days that followed, things started to improve. My husband and I were more united, and his family seemed to be making an effort to be more accepting. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. I realized that this wasn't just about food. It was about understanding and respecting each other's differences. Thanks for reading. Aita for giving my party-addicted husband an ultimatum to grow up or lose me. My 30-year-old female husband, 31-year-old male of 3 years, together for 11 years, and I have been having an evolving discussion regarding his drug use. I moved to a new city for him 5 years ago, and that's when I really started to notice a change in our relationship. Partying and drinking multiple nights per week, what I thought was occasional drug use, MDMA, coke that I'm aware of. I tried it once and had an awful experience, and got super turned off by it all. We've moved back to our home city in the last year, bought a home, and I really thought things would change. They haven't, stupid me. And I am fairly certain he is using drugs multiple nights per week. When he goes out for beers with friends and comes home at 2, 4 a.m. during the week, sometimes multiple nights a week. I told him that this makes me feel incredibly anxious about his ability to cut the chute and grow up. We're not getting any younger, and we both want kids. It also makes me feel anxious that it's unsafe and risky, not only for accidental overdose, but also given his line of work. I won't disclose for privacy reasons. I say the conversation is evolving because most recently we've talked about it, and he said he's scared of losing this young part of his life. He feels he'll be able to give it up quickly when required, as he has a few friends who partied a ton and had kids, and it completely changed them as people. Me? Not so sure, although I do empathize with the sense of loss. Something that has started happening in the last 6 months is our friends who know us both pretty well have started coming to me, saying they hope he cuts the chute because I'm a catch, and he's going to lose me. Even multiple of our friends he parties with often. I've told him they've come talk to me about this, and he was pretty shaken by it. He said in his mind he wants 2025 to be the year he gives it all up. In the meantime, though, he feels like the clock is ticking for this deadline, which makes things worse for him, and he feels he needs to get it out of his system. I feel so afraid and ashamed things have gotten this far. Sometimes he comes home and looks like a shell of the man I know. I don't know what my question is, Reddit. Maybe just a take on if others have gone through this and it's worked out in the end. To add, an additional detail is that he says he's addicted to the socializing aspect. He is very extroverted and loves socializing with lots of people. And he feels this is the reason he's going out and partying so much. I think he's fried his frontal lobe and his serotonin receptors are fricked from all the MDMA. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Dude, he is a drug addict and it will not magically stop at 2025. It is a great thing that you do not have kids, because he would be longing for the young, read reckless, life throughout your pregnancy and then beyond. He needs to go to rehab or you are gone. Honestly, you should leave anyway, since this has been an evolving discussion for years. Comment 2. I had an eerily similar situation. We were not married and we broke up. I am sorry you are married. I think it is worth an ultimatum, but even then you cannot make someone get sober. My fear was always pushing him too hard and him just lying more about it. Which happened, it is a tricky situation. Maybe therapy is a good option for the two of you. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post. 2 weeks ago, I decided to take a more proactive approach to dealing with my husband's drug use. I sat him down for a serious conversation, laying out my concerns and the impact his behavior was having on our relationship. I told him that I couldn't continue living like this, feeling anxious and uncertain about our future. He seemed to understand, but I could tell he was struggling with the idea of giving up his current lifestyle. A few days after our talk, he came home late again, clearly under the influence. I was furious and heartbroken. I told him that if he didn't make a real effort to change, I would have to consider leaving him. This ultimatum seemed to hit him hard, and he promised to try harder. He even agreed to see a therapist to address his addiction and underlying issues. The first therapy session was a turning point. He came home looking more hopeful and determined than I'd seen him in a long time. He told me that the therapist had helped him realize that his need for socializing and partying was a way to escape from his deeper insecurities and fears about growing up. This revelation seemed to give him a new sense of purpose, and he started making small changes in his daily routine. He began by cutting down on his nights out, limiting them to weekends only. He also started spending more time with me, doing activities we both enjoyed, like hiking and cooking together. These changes were small but significant, and I could see that he was genuinely trying to improve. However, things took a turn for the worse when one of his close friends invited him to a big party. He was torn between his desire to stay on the right path and his fear of missing out. After much deliberation, he decided to go, promising me that he would stay sober. I was skeptical, but wanted to trust him. That night, he came home much earlier than usual, and to my surprise, he was completely sober. He told me that he had spent the evening talking to his friends about his decision to cut back on partying and focus on our relationship. Some of his friends were supportive, while others were dismissive, but he stood his ground. This was a huge step for him, and I felt a glimmer of hope. The following week, he continued to make progress. He attended his therapy sessions regularly and even started going to a support group for people struggling with addiction. He also began to open up to me more about his feelings and fears, which helped us reconnect on a deeper level. But then, an unexpected challenge arose. His work organized a mandatory team-building retreat, which included a lot of socializing and drinking. He was anxious about attending, fearing that he would relapse. We talked about it extensively, and he decided to speak to his boss about his concerns. To his surprise, his boss was very understanding and even offered to support him in his efforts to stay sober during the retreat. The retreat turned out to be a success. He managed to stay sober and even found new ways to connect with his colleagues without relying on alcohol or drugs. This experience boosted his confidence and reinforced his commitment to change. Despite these positive developments, there were still moments of doubt and temptation. One evening, he confessed to me that he was struggling with the urge to go out and party. He felt overwhelmed by the pressure to change and fear that he would never be able to fully let go of his old habits. I listened to him, offering my support and reminding him of how far he had come. In the midst of all this, I started to reflect on our past and the reasons why we fell in love in the first place. I remembered how we used to spend hours talking about our dreams and aspirations and how we supported each other through thick and thin. These memories gave me the strength to keep fighting for our relationship, even when things seemed bleak. One night, as we were reminiscing about our early days together, he broke down in tears. He admitted that he was terrified of losing me and that he didn't want to let his addiction ruin our future. This raw, emotional moment brought us even closer, and I could see that he was truly committed to making a change. Over the next few days, he continued to make progress, and I started to feel more hopeful about our future. We began to talk about our plans for having children and how we could create a stable, loving environment for them. These conversations helped us both see the bigger picture and reinforced our commitment to each other. As we navigated these challenges, I also learned more about his past and the experiences that had shaped him. He opened up about his struggles with self-esteem and how he had always felt the need to prove himself to others. This insight helped me understand his behavior better and gave me more empathy for his situation. In the end, these 2 weeks were very eventful of emotions, but they also brought us closer together. My husband is still on his journey to recovery, and there will undoubtedly be more challenges ahead. However, I am more hopeful than ever that we can overcome them together. Thank you for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.